Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amina Aranaz Alunan, and on behalf of the Fashion Design Council of the Philippines, SOFA Design Institute, PHX Fashion Conference, I welcome you all to the Fashion Forward Dialogues. The Fashion Forward Dialogue was created because I guess when this hit all of us, really nobody was prepared for this kind of pandemic, this kind of crisis. And all of us have been scrambling for answers. Many of us in the fashion industry are looking for a sense of direction, and we created this dialogue series in order to start the conversation. We invited several industry practitioners to also join in and share their ideas, share their sentiments. And this afternoon session, our day 3 session, is focused on the fashion community. We want to focus today on, the artisan community, the craftsmen, the manufacturers as well. And the moderator for this afternoon, we've invited Bal De Guzman. Bal De Guzman is the founder and designer of Risque Designs, a footwear brand and manufacturing company that focuses on using Filipino materials, skills, and inspirations. Tal is an advocate of local crafts and promotes ethical manufacturing and sourcing practices. She also conducts regular trainings with artisan communities and teaches in various schools and studios. She's also finishing her master in entrepreneurship, social enterprise development track at the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. So at this point, I will turn you over to Tal De Guzman. Tal? Hi, Tal.
Hi, Miss Amina. Thank you for the intro. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, to all our participants. It's a beautiful day, and thank you for joining us. Thank you to PHX, SOFA, and the Fashion Design Council of the Philippines for this session. Again, I'm Bal De Guzman, and I will be your moderator for the day. I know most of you have submitted questions upon registration, but if you have additional questions as we go along the session, please ask them using the chat box, and we will try to address some of them if we will have enough time. So please don't forget to say your name and the company. So you might be wondering why we have this topic, specifically focusing on communities. Now, for some of you, the word community might mean that you are working with weavers and other artisans. But as we in the fashion industry are all affected greatly by this pandemic, not just as business owners, designers, and professionals, we also have to think about communities as involving all the people whose source of income heavily relies on whether our businesses would live, die, or thrive. This is the time when we should be thinking of our businesses, not just for our own profit, but also how its survival and hopefully its success could affect everyone down the line. So we came together in the session to think about these communities as something that is not exclusive or something that we keep to ourselves, but more of an ecosystem where everyone is affected by what everyone else is doing. So for today, we have 3 dynamic panelists. They all have extensive experience in their particular segments of the fashion industry. So we have Len Cabili of Filipina, Kat Bodestyne of Apparel House, and Anya of Anthill Fabric Gallery. So just to let everyone know about our flow for today, each panelist will have 15 minutes, and then we'll have our group discussion and Q&A. So these will be the questions that each panelist will address. What is your business and what kind of communities are you working with? What happened to your business processes during lockdown? And how were your communities affected? What are the plans that were affected due to the pandemic? And how are you pivoting during these times? And what are you planning for your production and your communities moving forward? So first for today, we have Len Cabili. So Len is the head of Filipina, and she instills distinct design elements of the clothing of different indigenous groups in the Philippines, specifically of the Tiboli, Maranao, Gadang, and Bilaan. She translates them into beadwork and embroidery on linen and other woven fabrics created exclusively by Filipino hands. So, Ms. Lan, if you can please turn on your video and your mic so we can hear you.
Okay, is this better? Sal, I can't hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Just in case my video freezes, just let me know.
Okay. You may start, Len, please.
Okay, so I'm Len Cabili. I founded Filipina back in 2008. The whole idea was really to look back on Philippine culture, work with artisans, and oh, I'm sorry. Are we on? Okay, am I freezing? Okay, continue then. Basically, when I did it in 2008, the whole idea was to work with different indigenous groups around the Philippines. I had spent time dancing for Bayanihan Philippine dance company, and I was exposed to all these different indigenous groups, and I thought of really combining my love for fashion and my love for Philippine culture into one brand, and thus I ended up creating Filipina. The communities that we work with, we basically started with the Maranao and the Tiboli, and it organically grew to around, I think we're probably at around 24 communities, indigenous and traditional groups around the Philippines. We work with Kalinga, the Ganang up north, the Itneg. We started working with an initial contact with certain groups up north, also Mangyan from Mindoro, Panay Bukidnon, that we need to nurture again. And most of the groups that we work with are basically from Mindanao, the Tiboli, the Blaan, the Tagakaulo, Maranao, Yakan, Tausug, Manobo, Manobo. There are probably like 3 kinds of Manobo groups that we're working with. So when I started Filipina, the whole idea was really to let the artisans work from home. So when when COVID-19 happened, the business process in terms of the artisans was not affected because we usually give them a lot of clothes to embroider on. They work from home. Even if they were on lockdown, they were actually producing for us. And I've just been getting a lot of messages the past 2 weeks saying that, you know, they've practically finished all the products that we've sent to them, the garments. And so they're just waiting to be able to send back to us. So when I talk about Filipina, there are like 3 areas that comprise our business. So we have the artisans, and they're all around the Philippines. We have the workshop that's in Taguig. It's there are around probably 20 people, sewers, finishers, the cutter, the production managers. So that's second grouping. And then the third is the design studio here in Mandaluyong. So in terms of the artisans, as I've said, they were not affected. They were affected only in terms of submitting their work. But for the workshop, we've had to stop it. And we're just waiting for the go signal to resume. And the same for the studio, the design studio. What are the plans? I think it's really changing certain areas of the way we do business. I've thankfully during lockdown, I've had the time to ponder, to reflect and meditate on what I really want to do moving forward. And the first on the list was really focusing on our core competencies. We are launching our online store finally on June 12th. It will mostly be for the market abroad. And then we're creating a different online platform platform for the Philippine market, and that will follow after we've launched the market abroad. And then the second thing that we really want to focus on is a program that we started last year, back in November, when I visited the artisans down in Mindanao. And it's our Bahay Kubo project. It's basically introducing permaculture to all the artisans. I've noticed as I visit the artisans that even if they have so much land, they don't have a proper vegetable garden. And the whole idea of the Bahay Kubo is basically to plant all the vegetable that's in the Bahay Kubo song for them to be self-sustainable in terms of their food needs. And also, we really want to push for a healthy lifestyle, for them to veer away from things that are processed. I think this is in line with what I'm going through personally right now. I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy last December, and as I was talking to doctors, they kept on telling me about, you know, how it's very important to eat healthy, and I'm trying my very best to change my diet to 80% vegetables. So whole food or you know, anything that is natural and whole foods. So that's one project that I'm really excited about, and we're really hoping to move forward with that, because I think it's going to affect not just the artisan that we're working with, but also the family and also the communities. And the third, I saw a question, tricky. I'll answer that later on. Sorry. And the third is really, I'll make this quick. I might be running out of time. Personally, I when I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, I started asking the question, what is enough? You know, and it's this simple question, and yet it really is quite deep if you think about it, because I started focusing on my work, on my lifestyle, on how I on everything, the way I eat, and I think for Filipina, thankfully we've just been producing things at a pace. I always say we're the turtles of fashion, at a pace that is according to the artisan's preference, and I think for us, in terms of growing the groups that we're working with, I think we'll basically, for now, focus on and take care of the groups that we're working with, but also for me personally, in terms of my work, I really need to balance both work and play, and need time off for myself. And I think as you're healthy, you're able to do a good job. And I think it's something that I really want to share with the artisans through our Bahay Kubo project. I saw a question, sorry, sometimes I'm not looking at the questions, but I saw a question by Tricky, was it Tricky? And it was about our trunk shows. Yes, I'm scheduled to do a few trunk shows in the US, Aspen, New York, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Idaho, Florida. You know, there are dates set for July, but I'm just really taking it a day at a time. It's, I think, a lesson for me to just, you know, think is on my plate now, and that is really thinking of a way how Filipina can move forward at this time. Is my 15 minutes up? Pal?
You're good, Glenn. Actually, yes, we'd like to address a few questions from the participants, but it's very nice to hear how you're trying to do this, how you're trying to deal with this situation in a holistic manner, no? And we're very happy that you still try to support your artisans. And well, first, before we address that, maybe you can share a little bit about the measures that you have taken so that, well, when this whole thing happened, you were able to take care of the artisans that you're working with.
Thankfully, when we started around 12 years ago, we've noticed that we had to assign one person, and she's in charge of a certain group. So like she would probably handle like 12 to 18 artisans under her. So we thought that, that everyone has to help. It can't be us hovering around them. We really needed to give them the reins on how they need to manage themselves. And the Tiboli, somehow we came up with this program wherein, there's like one head, and then there are like 12 to 18 artisans under her. If they grow more than that number, we encourage them to create another group. It varies per group. Like for the Mangyan, they're around like 45, but they still want to be under one group. I think it's all these years of working with them in a very intimate way, and I think that's very key. That there's an open communication. There's a really, I would like to say that we have a very strong relationship going on, that I think no matter what we've gone through in life, and in the last 12 years, should I stop the video?
No, just keep going.
Okay. So whatever we have gone through in the last 12 years, it has always made us have that mindset of we need to make this work. And I think having that mindset from the very start has, in a way, given us a very good foundation on dealing with the COVID-19. Because when this happened, of course, I got messages from them, and they thought that they were the only ones affected. And I said, everyone's affected, and I think everyone just like calmed down. And everyone just wanted to help. I think they were more concerned over me personally getting over my Bell's palsy, and that's what they always like ask when they text me. But I guess it's that it's like really that being sensitive towards each other. And I'm just really, really grateful that the artisans that we work with have really been very supportive and able to work things out, I think.
Yeah, I think it's very nice that you were actually able to support them also, not just in getting services from them, but also capacitating them, like what you said, so that they can manage yourself. And I think that's very crucial to like for everyone who's trying to work with the community, so they're not just totally dependent on you. I just want to address, this is actually a nice question from one of the participants. She's saying that, this is from Kristen Yu. She's actually very excited for your international launch, e-commerce launch.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to ask this question. So in a global world fast becoming very sensitive to cultural misappropriation, how do you think about this in terms of the designs you make for the international space?
I've had my mistakes. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I think it really goes back to the relationship that you have with the artisan. So in that case wherein I made the mistake, I think because we had an ongoing dialogue that we were able to clear it. As long as you always have something going on, then they're very free to like tell me, oh, that's not possible. I think we shouldn't do that. Okay. And
It's about
I think
communication, right?
Yeah, I think that's very key. There's like always like an ongoing conversation going on between us and them, and I think the fact that I go visit them quite regularly, and I think that reason.
Sorry, Len, I think you're breaking up a bit. So, are you still there? Len? Okay. All right, we'll try to get back Len a bit later. Okay, Christine later will we'll try to get Len to address.
The question was around international consumers.
Yes, yes. Her question was more about international consumers being sensitive to cultural misappropriation. Len, would you like to answer that quickly before we end your session? Okay, I think everyone, sorry, Len might be having some technical difficulties, so we'll try to get back to her later. So for our next panelist, we have Kat Bodestyne. Kat is the CEO and director of the Apparel House, a company that has been in the garment business for over 10 years, employing at its productive peak of about 5,000 workers and subcontractors. Apparel House provides its manufacturing services to different high-end fashion brands, such as Rustan's, Patty Ang, among others. And she is also a partner of Yoya, an e-commerce brand focusing on women's wear. So hi, Kat. Welcome.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you. Okay, so you may start if you'd like to share us your thoughts and experiences.
Good afternoon, everybody. As what Tal said, I'm Catherine Bodestyne, COO of the Apparel House Company, Inc. We are a garment manufacturing company established for 10 years, and we are located in Taytay. We cater to the high-end local brands, and we also manufacture corporate and medical uniforms. And now, during the pandemic, we are producing PPEs. So we have a total of 120 employees coming from Taytay, Antipolo, Binangonan, Pasig, and Cainta. So most of them are above minimum wage earners and all receiving mandated benefits. We give profit sharing as well to our loyal regular employees. And before I move forward, I'd like to say thank you. It's an honor to represent the garment manufacturing industry. Although this industry is not as big as it used to be in our country, we still make up for a lot of MSMEs. So an opportunity like this gives us a sense of relief that this organization is willing to listen to our experiences during these times. So during the ECQ, we have experienced cancellation of orders. 30% of our orders got canceled and 20% have put their orders on hold until further notice. We have already purchased all the fabrics, trims, and some of the goods were ready for delivery. Our factory stopped its operation after the March 15 ECQ. Since then, we have been subsidizing all our employees the basic cost of living allowance. But doing this with no income is not sustainable. We applied for the DOLE Camp program and SBWS assistance from SSS last March 31. DOLE informed us that they can no longer accommodate our application as the allocated budget is already exhausted. But we are relieved that last May 5, SSS granted our application and distributed 8,000 pesos to all our employees through their ATM accounts. So our workforce during the ECQ, we applied for an IATF permit to be able to manufacture PPEs in order for our workforce to have income. So out of the 120 employees, 12, those living nearby our factory, were able to report to work. We would like to increase our capacity, but with ECQ, it is difficult for our workers who live in Antipolo, Pasig, and other towns outside Taytay to come to work due to the following constraints. So total lockdown of our area. Another one is no means of transportation. and also their fear of getting COVID-19 contamination if they go out of their homes. Once the ECQ is lifted, we believe that the public transportation will be available rather, and hope that the majority of our workforce can start. So what are the business challenges that we are facing? Right now, we're implementing the DOH COVID health protocol, which is physical distancing of 1.5 meters. So what we did is we rearranged the stations of our workers prior to the lockdown. And we applied disinfection or sanitation wherever possible, like their hands before entering the factory, their machines, doorknobs, etc. And also wearing of masks except when eating. And we also gave an instruction to all of our employees to change their clothes before entering the factory. So we also have a temperature scanner to make sure that all our employees are safe, and of course the frequent washing of hands. So we want to test all our employees prior to the GCQ, but right now it's something that we don't know how to go about it. But there are some organizations who have these test kits. We are still sourcing for a cheaper and sustainable way to go about it. But of course, this will be an additional expense for the company. So we also applied remote working, distribution of some machineries to sewers to work at home. So even if it's the one of the ideas that we have, it's still costly due to the logistics. Quality issues because of lack of supervision. Imagine your sewers sewing at home and they don't have line leaders or QC personnel. So we'd still have to invest or come up with a plan for roving QC to visit these sewers in their homes. So another one is to have 2 shifts to implement social distancing when we are at full force, and also have different break schedules. And assign some days to work from home, like for some of our employees, like our pattern maker, planners, accounting personnel, etc. So another challenge is competitive pricing. The going rate of PPEs is so competitive that there's hardly any room for profit. So this is how we're trying to cope. A lot of other people are offering their services through Facebook, those Viber groups, saying that they sell these PPEs, and they have these sewers who sew for them, uh, and they don't have the overhead to cover for it, and the rates are really low. So, however, even if that's one of our challenges, uh, we still went through with producing PPEs. However, um, it still covers a portion of our overhead, like rent, utilities, management, employee salaries, etc. So it is difficult to compete, like what I said, with the small cottage garment factories that do not pay the government mandated benefits. But our consolation is that we get to cut our losses. So cost cutting is one of our agendas in our business. So to review current SOPs, streamlining of operations and employees, focus on increasing the efficiency of employees, renegotiate the lower salaries of our indirect employees, and cancel company activities like yearly excursions, Christmas parties, etc. And of course, renegotiate our rent. So another challenge is our domestic supply of raw materials. So as we continue to accept orders for these PPEs, another problem presents itself, which is the depleting domestic supply of raw materials, fabric, zippers, etc. They have now become scarce. So fabrics available in the domestic market are non-medical grade. So the clients settle for water-resistant fabrics. So due to the non-availability of medical grade fabrics, we had to reconstruct these PPEs for it to pass certain standards that the hospitals require. So another move for Apparel House is that we are trying to import these medical grade fabrics. Um, so we need assistance also from the government, customs to facilitate the importation of raw materials of PPEs and hopefully be tariff free for these to make it available to all hospitals and frontliners. So need for additional funding. Since the ECQ, the factory had no income. We spent for the COLA, cost of living allowance, to support our employees. We also requested our lessor to waive our 2 months rent, but to no avail. The officers who are also stockholders stopped receiving salaries. So our savings is dwindling. We need additional funding, and we are hoping for government support in terms of stimulus funding as done in the USA. We hope for a government economic stimulus like the proposal of Congressman Joey Salceda, which he is recommending to Congress. We believe that if the MSMEs are given stimulus funding, the economy will benefit in the end. So we get to hire more workers, workers who are consumers can afford to buy more merchandise, retailers can sell more, we get more orders, and as a result, the government can collect more taxes from all levels, including us. So the economy will roll. After all, we are a consumer-based economy. So what is the future of garment manufacturing? So the fashion garment industry, like travel industry, is forecast to be the last industry to recover. Buying garments is discretionary. It's not classified as essential goods. With social distancing, people have less needs for fashionable garments. Of course, we are hopeful that the pent-up demand due to lockdown negates this. So to continue our business during the GCQ, we decided to pursue manufacturing PPEs. So our short-term goals is, of course, to get by without workforce contamination of COVID, maintain our current workforce, and also to break even at least. So our long-term goals is to have the business still running when the global situation comes back to normal, and also to invest in innovative special machines to keep us to keep up with fashion trends from Europe. So our mission is to create perfection in every garment, to be prepared, to be a prepared apparel company with a reputation as well as managed financially sound and customer-oriented organization, to be a world-class manufacturer of apparel using highly skilled workforce and superior raw materials, to actively comply with ethical, social, cultural, and environmental principles. So our vision is to provide customers with distinct apparel with exceptional quality, to contribute in promoting the interest of clients by guaranteeing competitive pricing and timely delivery, and to utilize cost-effective and innovative technology. So we believe in our business. We continuously audit our existing systems, train our employees to be the best in their craft. Our mission and vision is to produce the highest quality garment at par with international luxury merchandise and to give the best service to our clients. So we believe that we can hurdle today's struggles, tomorrow's uncertainties, and we look forward to a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Wow, it's actually nice to hear something from someone who manufactures also for other brands and other designers. Because you mentioned a little bit a lot about how you're supporting your the workers that you have right now, but I think a lot are nodding their heads when you're saying something about how difficult this is for everyone. But since you're working with other business owners as well, what are the ways that you are able to support them also? Because they're also part of your community, right? Not
Yeah.
just the workers. Are there any measures you're taking to maybe support these brands and designers that you're working with?
We've opened our doors to manufacturing PPEs, and sadly, during this time, it's the only thing we can manufacture. So once that happened, we opened our doors also to our current buyers and asked them if they also want to partake in this opportunity, because the malls are closed. They also don't have revenue. So some of my buyers actually pivoted to producing or asking for donations from their friends or whoever if they want like to have a hazmat suit done, an isolation gown, booties, masks. So these are what our buyers are pivoting to. So even if we're on lockdown, their sales are low, they have this opportunity to help our frontliners and their businesses as well.
Thank you, Kat, for that. So that's the time we have for this session. Thank you. So we will proceed. We'll have you back again later. So we will proceed with the next panelist. We will have Anya Lim. So Anya is the Princess Ant and co-founder and managing director of Anthill Fabric Gallery. Anthill is a social and cultural enterprise working on elevating Filipino weaving culture through circular and contemporary design that supports sustainable livelihood. With over a decade of experience in community development, her immersion began as a volunteer with international nonprofits, where she did work as in resource mobilization and advocacy communications. Anya is very passionate on women economic empowerment, particularly weaving community entrepreneurship and handcraft traditions. And Anya, thank you for coming here, for joining us. Hi, please unmute and share us your thoughts.
Thank you so much for having me, Tal. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have this platform to also talk about the work that we do. So Anthill is a social and cultural enterprise. We're based in Cebu, Philippines, but we work with various weaving and craft communities across the country. The way we do our business is we apply our weaves and our crafts in contemporary and circular design to elevate our culture and our living traditions, and also to sustain our livelihood and the livelihood of these communities. And we do this through capacity building and our community enterprise development program. So the way Anthill works is we are founded by an ecosystem model, and we have different communities, our stakeholders that actually run the business. So first is our direct community partners, and this is primarily where our commitment is deep and where we measure our impact. And we have 5 communities across all sectors: urban, indigenous, and rural. And then we also have textile partners, and pretty much among these textile partners, our interactions are limited to a supplier-customer relationship versus compared to our direct partners where we implement our programs. And then we also have our production partners, and these are the ones who manufacture and use our textiles and apply them into byproducts. And we also have design collaborators like Tal, who help us in elevating the value of our weaves and transforming them into gorgeous designs that are relevant to these times. So during the crisis, during the implementation of the ECQ, we were able to quickly act on it by decentralizing our supply chain. So fortunately, we have a very small in-house production team in Anthill that's composed of 5 seamstresses, including our cutter, our master cutter. And most of them have loaned sewing machines from us when they reach like 3 to 5 years in Anthill. So those who didn't have sewing machines, we readily lent our sewing machines to them so we can set up a work from home system while we are on lockdown. We also had to tap our production partners in Cebu to help us pivot the business. Of course, as a social enterprise, our commitment is people over profit, and we had to ensure from the get-go that we're able to continue our operations, continue our business, ensure there's cash inflow to really be able to provide sustainable livelihood to all our communities. I'd like to apologize for my dog in the background. So fortunately, we've had a lot of pending purchase orders that were sent out to all our weaving communities across the country prior to the lockdown, because we were preparing for a huge pop-up in the mall coming this June. So that's of course canceled, or it's not pushing through. So all our weaving communities, especially those in the rural areas, are able to weave at the comfort of their own homes, because that's really how traditionally weaving is done. So not all of them have weaving centers. So we don't really have so much issues with work continuity in our weaving communities. The challenge is just logistics. So some of them have pending POs, but they don't have raw material. So they don't have enough thread, or the thread that's necessary for a particular order. So that particular purchase order is put to a halt. For example, our community in Lake Cebu, sa Sotonawa, who are doing the brass crafts, are not able to also fulfill the purchase orders because they're not able to buy scrap metal. So the mobility of going around to procure raw materials is the biggest challenge now. And of course, shipping it to us so we can ship it to our clients, or we can manufacture them into finished products, is also the big challenge now. But in terms of sustainable income, this is still covered because of the production plan we've had to cover until Q3. On top of those, most of our community artisans or community partner artisans are mothers. And because of the current situation, they have automatically become breadwinners of the family, since a lot of their husbands run contractual jobs. So most of them are like painters or construction workers. So again, there's more pressure for a lot of the seamstresses and artisans to really have sustainable income, because they're now feeding the entire household, and the income is just reliant on one person. On top of that, also, there's also scarcity in terms of food supply, and this is primarily a problem mostly in urban communities because of the limitations in mobility. So during the first week of lockdown, we were able to release food packages amongst our urban partners. With our rural partners, or those in the countryside, we raised funds for them so they can purchase rice. So at least that. A lot of our community partners also in the countryside either have already been farming. So in Abra, they are already farmers. In Bukidnon, most of them are already farmers. However, in Lake Cebu, in South Cotabato, they started to farm right now. So they're using their land to farm produce. So they have food security in the coming months. As for our plans and how we have pivoted, we readily produced reusable masks using our scrap fabrics from production end cuts and textile waste. So while we're able to use this as our lifeblood and bread and butter to sustain our income for business continuity, we're also happy that we're able to contribute, even in our small little way, in reducing waste, in reducing textile waste. So we've done that, and that's really been our source of income to keep everything afloat right now in Anthill. On top of that, we also are in solidarity with a lot of small businesses and other social enterprises. So we've come up with a lot of bundles that combine essential goods to non-essential goods. Like our baskets we have existing inventory of a lot of baskets, and we've used that to put in essential goods and collaborate with other brand partners to just to help them market and also have cash inflow coming in. I think our biggest challenge now is because we had a lot of these pop-ups planned in our events pipeline, and all these are canceled. We're heavy on inventory, but we're not as liquid as we hope to be. And that's why we need to creatively strategize on how we can turn these inventory into cash inflow to support the artisans and their livelihood. One of the things we're also planning to do, because we have so much fabrics, is to launch our fabric online store this month. So hopefully support the needs of designers or international collaborators in their raw material requirements. Fortunately, we have already launched our website and we have a very active social media channel, and we utilize and leverage on the power of our community of customers to really support our initiatives and help us be able to keep the business afloat and also sustain the livelihood of our communities. Yep. With regards to our plans for our communities, we were supposed to actually run a series of, every year we run a series of trainings in all our community partners under our Community Enterprise Development Program. And this year being our 10th year, we were scheduled to launch our program and pilot it in new communities. So the field work will be put to a pause for now, but we're hoping to find means to continuously build leadership skills just through community check-ins. So we do community check-ins on a quarterly basis anyway, and we want to keep the orders coming also.
Okay.
That's pretty much everything on my end.
Wow, thank you, Anya. It's very interesting how you said earlier you got to decentralize your supply chain very early into the situation. It also seems that you have adapted very fast to all of this. I was wondering though, for your nanays that you're working with a community, in the communities, how are their orders? Is Antel able to put in this? How you're able to get them to understand that there might be a slowdown, especially since technology is really not the strong suit of a lot of our partner communities. So how are you able to adapt?
Right. So the way Anthill is structured from the get-go is that the kind of relationship we have with our partner communities is really a business partnership, and we really empower them or help them realize their potential through our Community Enterprise Development Program. So early on, they already have that entrepreneurial mindset. So they understand the situation, they understand the concept or the theory of supply and demand, and they understand the limitations of what's going on. We have a community manager and a community leader in every community, and there are channel and there are means of communicating and making the rest of the members understand the situation. So with the scenario, what we did was actually compute their current purchase order, and we did projections and showed to them how much they will still have as income in the coming months. So they're able to actually budget based on what will come in the coming months. We will have to work together to kind of anticipate what's going to happen in Q4, but we're pretty optimistic that hopefully by Q4 we'll have enough kind of activity in terms of buying again and selling again. So the only manner we were able to explain it was for them to kind of have a macro understanding of the situation and be able to see the bigger picture, that it doesn't mean that we're not actively ordering now. that they're not going to have enough means until, say, Q3. So we had to make them understand that our purchase orders are enough to cover their needs until Q3. And we had to kind of specifically list down the income per nanay, so they know what's the working budget they can make.
That's good. It's really like a partnership for you and the nannies that you're working with. And it's nice to see how you're able to implement that kind of system with them. But I'm sure when you started, it wasn't really like that, because we don't want the participants to think that when you started this engagement with the communities, it was already like that, right? It was a very difficult role from the get-go.
Yeah.
Maybe expound a little bit how you were able to set up that kind of system with them, how you're able to get them into that mindset that this is a partnership, we are working together for your business as well. You're not just suppliers for us.
Right. So yes, it takes a lot of time and investment and a lot of field visits to establish trust and also kind of have a shift in mindset. I guess to narrow it down to 3 things. First is vocabulary. So there's a lot of shift in vocabulary. Like, we're not here as customers, we're here as business partners. We're not here to save you from poverty. We're here to kind of learn from each other and work on solutions together. So the language we use when we communicate with our partners is very precise in a manner that it actually makes them realize that they can become business partners and they can become entrepreneurs. Second is a lot of trust building, which is really done by investing in a lot of presence through field visits, a lot of dialogue in the community. We also invest so much in business skills transfer, valuing their time and valuing their skill by letting them understand how to go about proper time and motion and how to go about proper costing, how to go about valuing their skill and their time and their materials knowledge or cultures knowledge and incorporating that when they do their costing. So when they feel that these skill set, this materials and culture knowledge is acknowledged, then they're able to add value to that. How designers add a design fee or like we put a premium to our creativity. So we also communicate that to our partners, that when they do costing, they also have to give credit to their creativity and talent. Finally, participatory communication or like dialogue, or just not having a know-it-all mindset. Like, we've also had our share of mistakes, but coming into the community as a learner and trying to work out on solutions together, because I probably understand how projection works, how cash flow management works, or how financial management works, but they don't. So we have to kind of speak in the terms of their language and really invest in so much dialogue until you're in the same page. So a lot of the solutions mostly come from our nanays. A lot of the ideas come from our nanays. For example, quickly, we run a financial literacy and savings program, and that actually came from our nanays. They wanted to have savings so they're able to feel that their quality of life is improving.
Galing, Anya. Thank you. That was
Salamat.
very comprehensive and really very, very informative. Actually, for all the panelists, it's very nice that all of you have very good game plans and that it's really the communities that are on top of your minds when you're dealing with the next steps for your businesses. So for this next part of our session, I'd actually like to invite all 3 panelists to please come back and turn on your videos and mics so we can have the Q&A and discussion. So just to wrap up a little bit for everyone else, what we have heard today is, of course, there are challenges with this pandemic that everyone is lacking materials, it's slowing down. Our communities are also experiencing the uncertainties of the situation, but it's very, there's a lot of hope that comes with all these businesses that have the communities in mind, that they are pivoting and adapting very fast and really supporting their communities. So, okay, so is everyone in? All right. Thank you, Len, Kat, and Anya again.
Yes.
Thank you. So please turn on your mics. All right. So we have some questions from the panel, from the attendees. So first, I think this is more for Kat and Anya, because I'm not sure if Len is also doing servicing for other companies, but the question is from IHG. So now that more companies are considering work from home options after the quarantine, what do you think will be the impact of such change on fashion companies that cater to corporate professionals? Because I know that your brands or your companies also service them. Anya, would you like to go first, please? Anya, are you there? Okay, maybe Kat, please go ahead first.
Right now, we don't have any corporate client, but we do have a hospital that we are catering to. So during this time, it's kind of timely also that our business will stay afloat because we still have a hospital as one of our buyers. Yeah.
Okay,
but the work from home, I think since the need for corporate uniforms will be a lot less, being a small to medium enterprise, it's easy for us to shift our gears and cater to what's needed. Like because we're not really a company that's focused only on one particular good or merchandise. So it's easy to just open your doors to other possibilities. Like there are other companies who are still working in their respective buildings, and I think they will be needing actually additional protective gear. I actually have one company who inquired already, since the GCQ is just around the corner, and they do want to order hazmat suits for their employees. So instead of having the posh, stylish corporate uniforms, I think these corporations are also looking into protecting their employees by purchasing these PPEs. Yeah.
Thank you. There. Okay, Anya, you're back. Did you hear the question earlier? Would you like to answer?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay, sorry.
I lost my internet.
No problem. I see two of you. Now that more companies are considering work from home option after the quarantine, what do you think will be the impact of such change on fashion companies that cater to corporate professionals? Because I think you also do uniforms, right? For corporations.
Yes, that's correct. Fortunately, some sectors are still pushing through with their uniform orders, but the government contracts are put on hold because they're using the budget for subsidies to provide to their employees. So right now, as a strategy, I think we have to shift in kind of essential goods, like what the employees need. So we've had initial proposals to our existing partners, our existing customers, that require us to produce uniforms. If, say, they want masks to match their uniforms. So I think right now there's really a call to be more innovative in what we offer. But of course, it's a huge cut in revenue.
Okay. Thank you for that, Anya. Actually, this next one, because earlier, all three of you were sharing your best practices. We heard a lot of that, and we're very thankful to hear your experiences. But a little bit of real talk, you know, with all this, with the situation happening around us. Maybe aside from the best practices, maybe you can share a little bit about some of the if there are mistakes that you have encountered or you did during this whole situation. I think it's also nice to share that side. So maybe Len, if you have an answer to that, we can start.
I think it was quite, I think my mistake was because I was going through something very personal. So I really just wanted to rest. And so it took a while for me to, and I was away. I was actually in the US doing trunk shows up until late March. So by the time I arrived, they had been on lockdown already. And I think that's why I really made sure that I was in the Philippines. So at least there's like, you know, we're on the same time zone. It's easier to um, be more accessible. But I think my mistake was that I focused too much. Like I didn't want to work. I didn't want to sell. I just wanted to be quiet. And I think I'm not sure if that's really like a mistake, but I just wanted to retreat and kind of like ponder on what the next steps for us would be. I think if we're talking about mistakes, I think it was that. I wasn't proactive. I must admit, I wasn't proactive in getting in touch with the artisans. It was more of the assistant designers that were proactive in getting in touch with them. But thankfully, as I go back to that relationship, you know, artisans, they knew my condition, so they were like reaching out. But in terms of like the business, I should have jumped right back in, you know, and used that time on hand to really like make plans. But I guess because Filipina is so different, where we it's such a different kind of business that somehow our business is very intimate in terms of like even the pieces that we make are very limited, so it goes to specific people. So I think moving forward, trying to recover from that period of silence and not doing anything, I think right now I'm just trying to like get back on track, get some work done, focus on three things that we're planning for the brand. We're doing like a shift in how we do business, and focusing on the online, focusing on made to order with people, with all our clients. And the third is really a program that we hope to launch probably in the next few months. We're still tweaking it, but we're trying to really like reinvent ourselves in the way we will be selling and the way we will be dealing with our clients.
Thank you, Len. But I think I'm not alone in saying here that it's not a mistake to take care of rest if necessary, and to take care of yourself first, because of course we have other people to take care of, and we can't do that without taking care of ourselves first. So Anya, would you like to share something about the question?
I think Kat mentioned this earlier also, how like right now the difficulty is inline QC because it's decentralized, right? So because of our desire to give everyone everyone an opportunity to have income, I mean, not just our desire, but it's also our commitment. So there are people part of the team where their jobs are not really considered as essential. So meaning they really can't function from home. So what we asked them to do was cut the mask patterns or pre-cut the filters, and super decentralizing the supply chain gives so much room for for mistakes and QC headaches. And we didn't take that into consideration. So even with the intention to actually, you know, have cash inflow and be able to really provide jobs for more people, what happened was this resulted to a lot of rejects and increase in costs that we had to incur on our end. So that was one. Two is also, I think as a leader, probably like my personal gap as a reflection in hindsight was really not taking into consideration the effect of the pandemic on the mental health of my team as well. um, I assumed readily that I shared the excitement with my team to, be creative and pivoting and just keep finding ways to keep the business afloat to support our partner communities. Failing to consider that, like what Miss Len said, we also needed time to rest and really process this fear and this panic and this anxiety. And I wish I did that early on, but I did that towards the middle part already. And that was when all these kind of personal anxiety surfaced from the team. Mostly also from urban communities because they're the ones who kind of carry a scarcity mindset that they can't have all these essential goods that they need.
Yeah, I can very much relate to that because in the beginning I was also, a little bit like Len. I didn't want to um, also work first, but of course we had to take care of our communities. And when I started working, and I didn't realize that of course we also need to think about the mental health and the emotional status of our communities. But of course, to each his own, how we adapt to this, right? So, thank you, Anya. Kat, would you like to share a little bit more about that? Your maybe some mistakes or the things you wish you could have done better during this pandemic? Oops, you're on mute, Kat.
Actually, since I don't go to the office and my partners also don't go to the office, and we have samples coming in, even if we're not there, we have workers who are really strong-minded and they want to be able to provide, a good quality product. But our problem is, since being in the fashion industry, it's such a visual thing. Things get approved. You have to look if the making is okay. You have to fit it. You have to touch the fabric. All of those things are impossible for us to do, but and the process takes so long. So okay, padala mo yung swatch dito sa bahay, like use a courier, Lalamove, Grab, whatever, and it takes how many hours for us to actually get the product or the swatch. And also, since I mentioned earlier in my talk that we're trying to uh, instead of the basic design of PPE gown or suit, we have to somehow redesign it for it to become safer because we lack the machinery. So that alone, the process of informing our pattern maker or sewer, it takes a while. Like the sample can't be approved right away. It takes probably a week or two for just one sample to get approved. So I think right now we can't focus on our current job descriptions. I think we have to really be more proactive, take up on other jobs. Like if you're not a pattern maker, study it and try to do it in your house so that you can better translate it and give it to your pattern makers. Oh, this is how you're supposed to do it. The flap is gonna be here. There's gonna be slash and spread on this particular area, so on and so forth, and actually make like a pattern on your own. So the problem right now, even if we have technology, even if we have FaceTime or whatever, since it's a skill, it's a craft, we really have to be hands-on. So we have to hone those characteristics of ours and try our best to be able to communicate better. So I think that's, yeah.
I like that idea, that part about being really hands-on. I'm experiencing all those, like managing the orders myself, even packing for deliveries, all of those. Well, in line with that, what you're doing right now, this is actually a question for any of you guys, ladies, who want to answer, because a lot of the fashion companies have pivoted to creating masks and PPE to address the needs. But do you see any other business opportunities that are there for the fashion industry so that they can also support the communities? Like if there's anything else we haven't mentioned in this, in the talks that you had earlier, maybe you can share about it. This is a question from Sindana. So anyone may answer that. Like, what are the different, what are other opportunities? We can't all be doing masks and we can't all be doing gowns. Will there be anything else you see? Anya, would you like to answer?
Well, we don't really know how long this quarantine mode will last, but I think it's going to keep extending until we're able to flatten the curve. Maybe in the optimistic side of things, I think people probably who have the capacity or the purchasing power to buy apparel or non-apparel will probably be investing in homewares, like how they can organize or improve their home setup, or in terms of apparel, like anything that's Zoom friendly, you know, like people are talking about bedroom to boardroom kind of designs, something to address the heat as well. People are now getting really creative with face masks, like visor hats, face masks. I think it's just a matter of being sensitive or being insightful as to what's going to be the new normal like, and what kind of clothes I guess people will be wearing while we stay longer at home.
Thank you, Anya. How about Kat and Orlan? Would you like to share something?
Well, for me, it really depends on our buyers. So we don't create our own designs. But so far, the designers that we're working with are also focusing on making fashionable protective wear. I think they've also shifted their direction towards selling to doctors, nurses, or whoever, and they want to provide like a fashionable lab coat that still gives them protection. That's actually one of my inquiries lately. So I think there's still a lot of room for us to move forward and grab on an opportunity, even if we feel like we're at a loss. I also think that I'm actually looking at one of the questions in the chat, in the chats, and I think now that in the Philippines, of course, right now, China is our source, right? And I've also received several inquiries about producing certain types of goods because they refuse to order from China, or they don't want to increase their orders anymore with China, and they want to tap into the Philippine market, or let's say Vietnam or Malaysia. So I think now's our chance to prove what we can do, you know, quality, and just really be creative at this point. It's not time for us to, sit in our own little foxhole and think now, oh no, it's our doom. I think it's our chance to go back to the drawing board and just start something new. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tal, if I may add, I also feel like as what Kat said, there's going to be a lot of limitation in terms of sourcing materials abroad, right? So I think the one way to look at it in a more optimistic manner is there's going to be a shift in production and consumption where our supply chain is really localized, and this will mean more income opportunities for our weavers, for our shoemakers, for our manufacturers. And again, that's something that we need to think about, like how can we improve quality so that we can also serve a wider market and not just tap into the local market, especially because right now maybe our customers, our foreign customers or our customers abroad might have more purchasing power than local customers. But at the same time, we need to also take into consideration cost implications as how it will affect our supply chain if we localize sourcing.
Actually, related to that, Anya, before I ask Glenn to answer if she has any additional, maybe we can also share like what are the other kinds of supplies that maybe the fashion industry needs right now in terms of raw materials, because as you mentioned, a lot of companies are still sourcing from China or other countries. So there have been talks of people wanting for us to source locally, even the simple things, so what are these? So maybe for those who are who want to invest in business, maybe they can look into this as other sources.
I think we have to study like what resources we're rich at. So I mean, for one, obviously fabrics is something we can source locally, but there's also limitation in the type of fabrics that we can manufacture, because hand-woven fabrics, I mean, everyone knows it's hard to sew them. It frays easily. Some fabrics are too thick when it's woven. Some are too thin. So there's a lot of challenges in terms of construction. You can't get a stretch material out of the hand-loom fabric. So that's one. But we can get creative and make do with the local fabrics. Two is we have a lot of coconut. Coconut as a source of raw material. So for fashion, it could be cocoa beads, cocoa buttons, shell, like ethically sourced shell or waste from shells that can be used as buttons. I think what's going to be hard is like, zippers, pilon, fusible pilon. I know it's the accessories or the notions that are difficult to source locally.
For us, it's like simple things like buckles,
Exactly.
Hardware that we can't find locally, even like heels or stuff like that. Len, would you like to answer any of the past two questions?
I mentioned earlier about your core competencies, and I think it's really important at this time to look at it and build up on it. For us personally, thankfully, people, the clients that we work with, they know we do a lot of embroidery, we do a lot of embellishment. So people have been asking us to do, whether it's a lampshade or pillows for their homes. So it's really, in a way, expanding the product line, but not in terms of like producing it, but offering it to clients. I think it's a great way for any designer to just look at what they're doing and then think of ways that people can use it in other ways that that they need at this moment. And a lot of it really is for the home. Also, for me personally, the next problem that we face is really how to sell. Then that's you look at the way you produce, and for us, because things are produced individually by artisans, we have an opportunity to create all these different things with each artisan. So we're really wanting to build up on our made to order. And a friend of mine would always say, don't say no to anything. So, someone is interested to have a bedspread made, an embroidered bedspread. So it's that time to just be open to anything that a client would actually want and need at this point, and have some sense of like get into the new norm, that it's all about like the home. It's more of like, I think people will be buying less, so it's very important that what they buy is of good quality, and it's something that they'd want to keep for a long time. It's not something that easily discardable. So I think it's really just changing, the way you've been selling, the way you've been creating, and the way you've been working with either the artisans or the people that you work with. I've had a lot of like conversations with my design team, with the workshop, and the artisans. Of course, for us in that equation, the artisans the most important. So I've had to talk to the design team and the workshop people that, you know, we need to find a way to make this work. Like, we're looking at like the next year, we really need to find a way to survive the next year. It's very crucial. And so it's really about like working together, and that's what I always say to them: working together to not just depend on me to think of ways to sell, but it's everyone just really like, or even things that we will create, it's really everyone just pitching in and having that responsibility to make the business work. And that's could that be like a short-term plan? I think for us, the short-term plan is really get back to work as soon as possible. And number two, start selling. And then number three is try to look at our expenses and see which ones we can get rid of to just lessen our overhead every month. I have a very high overhead, so I'm constantly just like thinking of ways to even just shave off a portion of that overhead, because when things normalize, the artisans will be like sending us all the things that they've made, and probably will be, you know, will be stuck with a lot of inventory. So that's the challenge, really, is to keep them busy and sell the items that we have existing.
Yeah. Actually, I think you addressed some of the questions that the participants were asking regarding the long and short-term plans for your business. But you mentioned a little bit about involving your communities in this planning. How is it that you are able to do that, particularly? How do you involve them in this process? So any of you guys can answer as well. Maybe Len first.
Well, involving them in ways that with the artisans that we work with, we know what they're capable of doing. And I think in previous years, I think there was the sense of you know, I'll submit whenever I want to submit, I'll finish this garment whenever I want to finish this garment. And I think there has to be that mindset of anticipating difficult times ahead. So I think all of us have to start just saving or creating within our area of responsibility things that we can control. And I think that's why we're pushing for really going full blast with the Bahay Kubo program, because I feel that it answers a big part of their everyday needs. The rest is, you know, when they embroider for us, that's like extra income for them and extra income on top of their farming. But I think it's really like a holistic approach, that not that we weren't really doing it with the artisans, but I think now it has to be something that is explained to them in a whole. You know, sometimes when you're doing it, you're not aware of like certain consequences. But I think it's really important for us to go back and talk to them and see explain to them the real situation, because as it's the same with Anya and Kat, our resources are depleting. You know, we haven't been selling the last 2 months. So, and even if we're launching the online, what's the assurance that people will be selling? So we're really like looking at things in a very realistic way, and just coming up with like certain programs just in case the online doesn't go as well as we would hope. then we have the MPO, and then something else.
Okay, there. Thank you, Len, for that. Actually, we are running out of time, but maybe you have something else to say. Maybe a few last words for our participants. How about Kat, please?
Sure. Right now, you just have to focus on your whys. Like if you're in the fashion industry or in the manufacturing industry, just think why did you do this in the first place, and go back to your roots. And for year 2020, I think you just really have to focus on staying alive, staying healthy. And once you do that for yourself, then it trickles down to your business. You can focus on your business, keep your business afloat, and the community surrounding it, like your workers, your buyers, etc., you still get to be of service to them. So I think right now, before thinking of expansion, profitability, and increasing your liquidity, I think it's most important to just stay safe and stay healthy for year 2020 at least.
Of course. Thank you, Kat. Anya, would you like to say a few words?
Um, I guess for me, I think what's important also is you keep your brand or your business grounded in your values or anchored in your values, and you make sure that you're able to over communicate it right now to your stakeholders, to your community, to your customers, to your community partners, to your working team. There's such a high need now to be transparent in the way we do things, and it's okay to be vulnerable also. It's okay to communicate our challenges and our failures, and use also the channels as a platform to get our communities engaged and come up with solutions and feedback. So I think right now the way to keep things alive and keep things afloat is to just keep communication lines open, and like really show compassion to all your stakeholders, and give reassurance that we're all in this together and we all could move forward together.
I love that part when you say it's okay to be vulnerable. I think everyone can totally relate to that. Thank you, Anya. Len, please.
What we're going through is on a global scale. It's not something that we are going individually. Whatever effects that we are going through or facing, it's on a global scale. And I think with that mindset, it really should give us hope that even if this is happening on a global scale, there are opportunities that is within our reach. And our challenge is really to be creative and to reach out and grab hold of those opportunities. We need to work hard and for the coming year. And also, I think it's very important to always have like a sense of this perspective that out of trials, it's going to make us stronger as a brand, as a person, as a community, or even as a country. And I think it's always very important to look at trials or in that sense that we should persevere through what we're going through and what we will be going through, because at the end of it, I think we come out better people.
Yeah, I think the most important thing about that is, getting everyone to really realize that we are not alone in experiencing these difficulties, and we can always reach out to each other. And there are definitely opportunities coming up with these trying circumstances. So thank you, Kat, Anya, and Len. I would like to invite Esme to please come online so we can help wrap up the session.
Hi everyone. Hi guys, I'm Esme Palagana, co-founder at PHX Fashion Concert. It's safe to say that this panel was great. I can see the chat popping up. Talagang it's wild. But then again, I would like to thank the panel and then Tal as well for a great session. I think more than ever, there was an interview by the founding president, FDCP, Josie Natori. She said that for the Filipinos can't compete in lowering the price at more in quality. And like with what Kat said, it's something that we should all push forwards. It's ground zero. So with that, I think one of the main points for this past 3 sessions is that Kat and Anya and Len also said today is that mindset will change. So your product and service should be flexible also, but keep your company's identity. And with what Anya said earlier, your company's values and qualities are essential now. So commitment and service to your stakeholders, these are the reasons why your client will come back and new clients will go to you. So communicate that very well. And there are also some questions on the chat regarding government support. I just would like to say this because during the first session, Amina mentioned that the reason why we started this dialogue is to have an insight in terms of the different aspects of the Filipino fashion industry. So we saw this missing platform, and hopefully through these dialogues, we get to answer that. But then again, just talking to each other wouldn't solve anything. So I just want to plug so for everyone who's still here, please do answer the Philippine Fashion Industry Survey on the FDCP page so we can clearly address the needs of this industry to the government and other organizations. So this information will help the council assess your needs, be it you're a small, medium, or large enterprise. Also, you can also watch past sessions of the series on PHX Fashion Conference's YouTube channel on Friday at 3 p.m. And follow us on Instagram at PHX Fashion Conference since there will be more webinars in the future since we only discussed about manufacturing and design. So we'll have e-commerce, marketing, and other webinars in the future. I think aside from that, this was a great session. It was a great panel for everyone. We would like to thank our moderator today, Tal, our panelists, Kat, Anya, Len, and the rest of the moderators from the past sessions and the rest of the speakers. So with that, I would just like to end this with a quote from Manila Fame's webinar yesterday. So for us to assure our future is we have to create it. So through their business models and your products, this is the way you can assure your business to stay alive, especially this 2020. So again, thank you again to everyone. Thank you, everyone. We hope to see you next time. And stay inspired. Let's move forward, and we'll see you all next time. So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists and team. Please stay on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tal. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Ingat.